Okay, so boom. So October is financial planning month. And one of the key things within your overall financial plan is establishing an estate plan. And a lot of people talk about establishing estates, but I want to talk about a little bit more deeper than I have on my blog post, as well as my reel that I have up a couple weeks ago. Oh, I'm Nadia Vanderhall. I talk finance as well as small business marketing. I've been doing both interchangeably for the last decade and some change. But within this context, my theory of always taking the jargon and the judgment out when people are going on their financial journey, as well as building a brand strategy that makes sense, is what I feel that my solution within both spaces have become. So let's get back to this topic. When it comes to an estate plan, the purpose of it is pretty much like an encyclopedia britannica of instructions of transferring the wealth that you have obtained in your life and transferring it when you transfer it out. And you transition. The thing around it, though, a lot of people know about having wills, having life insurance policies. You'll probably have heard about trust fund babies, TOD, POA. All of those notes, all those little documents and steps are oftentimes used interchangeably when we talk about establishing an estate plan. And I want to build beyond the reel as well as the blog post on what you have heard to talk a little bit deeper about it. The reason why is because we've seen over the years where GoFundMe has funded the last passageway for people when they have transitioned, when people have been ill, when people can't pay for hospital services. But the thing around it is that I don't want GoFundMe to be the only way that we are able to pay for services of our family and friends and ultimately ourselves. I wanted to start talking about, when it comes to this generational wealth talk, that we are moving within the pathways of doing so. And the whole notion of having an estate plan has come with being the affluent and not necessarily seen as affordable. And I kind of want to walk through a little bit more deeper on what that could potentially look like and why you should consider doing that. If it comes to a part that you do have to utilize GoFundMe, that is nothing wrong with it. But there are other things that you can utilize, such as an estate plan, for when you are sick or when you transition, and what your family can also start to get involved in. And I think this is a very important thing that people know, that their family have to be involved in it. Their kids, their significant others, their boo things, whatever, that talking about it is not necessary. It's morbid, yes. But on a campaign that I worked for with Snoopy, was hashtag Who I Live For, it was talking about how you actually, who are you purchasing the life insurance policy for? And people had to give their story around who was this policy going to be benefiting, why that person means so much to them, and why it matters. And the same notation that I had within working with that campaign, it did well, did numbers now. But I want to bring that same connotation and sentiment when it comes to Black people, brown people, people who understand my talking, because I don't talk with jargon on it, that estate planning is ways to do it within your tax bracket or wallet. But it's very important for you to do it, or for you to understand what you could potentially do and how important it is for you to know what you currently have and how to transfer the wealth, rich or pre-rich, that you have whenever you do transition. So let's talk about it. So you've probably seen floating around a repost or a creative on social media talking about the things that you need to do, the important documents. So just say important, but it said like TOD, will, power of attorney, and it was a list. This actually was steps for you to establishing an estate plan. It was a good document. And I want to talk about a little bit more deeper context. One of the things, though, when it comes to an estate plan is knowing where to start. And knowing those documents are amazing and they are critical for it. But it's better to, in the grounds of establishing one, is to make sense of what your financial objectives are. I'm going to say this. I'm big on talking about financial objectives or financial goals. Those things are very critical no matter if you're budgeting, building wealth, or transitioning wealth on through generational wealth. Financial goals or financial objectives, I use that word or goal and objectives interchangeably, but they are very critical. The reason why is because when you have that financial objective and financial goal, you're able to work backwards to know what is your short-term goal, mid-grade, and your long-term goal, and even your generational goal. Your estate plan kind of fits within the generational goal bucket in a sense. It's kind of long-term generational bucket in a sense. So the now and later when it comes to financial objectives is very key, because when you know your objectives, you know what products or even what documents aligns to what those financial objectives look like. And one of the things that I often say on my social media is audit your wallet. But when it comes to estate planning, it has a different notation when it comes to that. But I'm going through my notes, see anything else. But yeah, it's very key to have the financial objectives to understand what documents within your estate plan, because you can see that creative, but that creative might work for you. It might not work for your estate plan. Why? Because no two estate plans are alike. So going back to my note, talking about the whole audit your wallet, but with the financial objectives, audit your wallet, and then establishing what your estate plan looks like. The audit your wallet is very key, and I'll talk about that in a second. What I mean about auditing your wallet, but when it comes to estate planning, is that no matter if you're rich or pre-rich, we don't talk broke over here. Or pre-rich is that you have to know what is in your estate to be able to establish an estate. So even if you see that, the talk about generational wealth, or the talk about estate planning, or the talk about having this, if you don't know what you currently have or what you need to have to establish that wealth transfer, that's kind of doing yourself a disservice. Because yes, you could have a will saying, oh, well, this and this and that. But if you don't know, do I have a beneficiary on my 401k? Do I have a beneficiary on my bank account? If you don't know if you even have certain things in place, how can you actually put a estate plan in place to transfer that wealth over? So that's the reason why I'm saying having financial objectives, auditing your estate to see what you currently have, what you need, the documents you need to have, and then even what other things you might want to obtain in the future to go back to your financial objectives is going to be key. Because in a way, while estate planning is talking about your transitioning, it actually will give you a retrospect on what you could potentially be doing in the current day to establish even more wealth whenever you do, unfortunately, transition. But the thing is, what you have to learn, I love to say, and you've been following me, you know this, the scale is in the start. Your scale of building wealth is, and getting to the generational wealth that you're talking about, is going to have a starting point. And for you to actually know how you're going to scale your estate plan over time, not necessarily right now, because we'll talk about why, you're going to have to know where you are. And for you to start, you're going to have to do a whole assessment or diagnosis of where you are financially, what documents do you have, what kind of insurance policies do you have, and things of that nature. So whenever you do start to build wealth over time and reassess your estate plan, that you know that you have these key things already. So my audit your wallet analogy does apply to estate planning. So the thing of it is though, your estate plan and your financial objectives in your day-to-day are going to actually work interchangeably, because it's seeing what you currently have now and what you want to have later is probably going to make you move a little bit differently, because you want to establish more wealth for the later. Or even more wealth, or even things to move or smoother in the latter. So that's just how I look at it. So the way that you can do this is the same way that you would make a budget. You're just doing a budget of your estate. So I would pull out a spreadsheet. For those that don't like spreadsheets, I understand. Pull out a document. Heck, make a note in your phone. Be careful with that though, because scammers are scamming. and list out everything that you have right now in one column, such as your bank accounts, your logins to your phone. Do you know your login? And designate in your estate. Yeah, designates in your estate. We'll talk about that a little bit later. Anything such as the real estate deeds or even your business, having a succession plan. You saw this on the House of the Dragons over the weekend, is that succession plans in business is key. And interestingly enough, your estate is technically a business in a sense. So an estate plan is a spin on a succession plan of your wealth generation. But one of the things I have said time and time again, and you probably heard this, is that no two budgets are alike, no two estates are alike. But here are some things that you probably heard and what they will mean when it comes to establishing your estate. You've heard of will and you've heard of trust. And they are oftentimes used interchangeably, but you can have both. Don't let nobody tell you can't. You can have both, but based upon what you are looking at within your document, when you list out, I have a car, I have a house, I have this, I have that, I have this bank account, I have this brokerage account, I have this retirement fund, when you list out everything, you sit back and you think to what you currently have or what you even had in the past. I'll talk about it a little bit later. It's key to know what each of these do, the trust and the will, and how to establish what that looks like in your overall estate plan. So a will is pretty much a document that directs who's going to receive those assets or properties within the time of your transition. And then a trust, on the other hand, is pretty much a legal agreement where a trustee is appointed that's going to manage and maneuver your assets and distribute income to beneficiaries that you may select. But over the last couple of years, we've heard cases of Chadwick Boseman, Prince, James Brown, all passing away and having years or excruciating probate cases, because either they'll feel that a certain legal document or a document will overside, you know what I was going to say, you're probably laughing, overside a will, or overside having anything, but having, I don't care if you are a celebrity or you just, whatever, having some kind of a will or a trust, either or you'll fix, or both, you need to do so. But like I said, please do so. Please update it very often. But another thing is called a dual power of attorney or power of attorneys. There are several types. I talk about this on my blog post. It pretty much assigns who you want to act on your behalf when you plan to do, when you cannot do so. So oftentimes people hear estate plan and think it's only for when you transition. And I talked about that in context, but it's another part of your estate plan. Can be in the case that something were to happen to you where you can't think for yourself, can't talk for yourself, and you need someone to think on your behalf, even though you still are here in body, that if something happens, you might need someone to act on to answer when it comes to your health and to answer on other things. So there's different types. You have to research to see what works for your estate plan and move accordingly. Another thing is beneficiary designations. From your 401k to your bank account, please list out your beneficiaries with the S. The reason why I'm saying is that you hear the primary beneficiary, but there is a contingent beneficiary, which is in the sad case of the primary beneficiary was to happen to pass away, that you will have a contingent beneficiary. Beneficiaries have to be, in certain cases, you have to make sure that this is called out within your estate plan. But in some states, that beneficiaries have to be 21 and up. unless you have to research, but kind of use, but that's usually the basis from what I have seen. Something else that that you should consider, especially this one, is called a LOI, or a letter of intent. It's pretty much like a forward to a book you will open, with the book of your estate plan. It's gives terms of what's in the estate, and it's very good, especially if you so happen, child, hope you don't have to, because I've been through it, have to go through a probate. But it's a good thing for you to have as well. Guardianship designations. If you have kids or have someone that depends on you fully, you're gonna have to have that outline, and it's very critical in your estate planning. So from the top, not like Cardi, make it drop. Estate within, these are key. Some of the key things is the whole prefer of it, but a will in trust, dual or power of attorney, depending on the type. Beneficiary designations, please get that. Letter of intent, LOI, and guardianship. One of the things that I talked about on my blog post talking about unestablished wealth estate planning is that no matter if you have a life change, meaning you get married, you have kids, or your net worth changes or not, I want y'all to please be mindful of reviewing, renewing, or moving anything interchangeably at least annually or biannually, depends, when it comes to your estate plan. Things can happen, and you will see that, oh, I didn't include this, or you'll have the estate plan established, then you'll go about your way and say, oh, I forgot this or I forgot that. Renewing will always allow you to reinstate things that you may have forgot or place into a different perspective when it comes to your estate plan. Let's see. I'm gonna tell you why. Probates can be very expensive and messy, and we've probably either seen or heard or know this to be true. And a lack of state or will can make this go all downhill. So this is the reason why I feel more empowered to start talking about it now, because I'm overseeing Black and brown and people who understand or follow what I talk about, not having not only the knowledge but the know-it-all to start to establishing a will, or establishing what goes into it, knowing what key things need to be aligned. So it's good to say, oh, generational wealth, but it's one thing if you don't have a will, you don't have a trust, you don't have anything in documentation. Heck, even the LOI that I talked about will be key to saying, in the case of I'm not an attorney, but I can read like one. But I'm just very passionate about making sure that different parts of the whole generational wealth movement that people post about, that people are actually positioning and seeing the process, so they can be proactive about making sure that they do move about it. Like I said, estate planning isn't just when you are to transition or pass away. Disability has to be included as well. Group disability only covers 60% of your net income and is partially taxable. Long-term care is something to think about as well. And then one of the things that I tell people to do is to go look at what you see that creative said on social media. So if you go ahead and research what works for you, and going back to those financial objectives, what you have, that spreadsheet of what you currently have, and to see, well, shoot, maybe I need to get some more life insurance. Maybe I need to maybe I need to get this or establish or whatever you want to do, place here. But the estate planning is a process. Some people can get it done overnight with the attorney. Some people can get it done in a couple of days. But the thing about estate planning is that utilizing it to actually see the process of what is it going to take to build the wealth that you want. But it's not necessarily, again, like I just talked about, the whole group disability, is that people oftentimes think it's only about when you transition. Life has different transitions, And unfortunately, some people will find themselves disabled and can't fend for themselves. But having that in part of their estate plan, this part of a clause to cover when your job disability doesn't. And then speaking of job, a lot of people get life insurance only for their job, through their job, and then noticing that it's not enough. Having multiple life insurance policies is clutch. Some have it. I know you've been seeing on social media, on TikTok or whatever. Oh, it's a wealth builder. Listen, yes, having multiple life insurance policies is key, but it's also within your estate plan designating it to, if anything comes about. But you have that beneficiary, but you can also earmark for, this is for to cover my burial. This is for to cover my expenses. This policy is for everybody else. So that's why. It's also, if you don't want to do it on your own, you don't have the cost, you're trying to be cost effective of going to an attorney, which, you can do that as well. The reason why I'm telling you to do the pre-work is that if you determine to go through the attorney route, you already have done the work and probably cut some of your your billing rate down. But also, when you go to these platforms such as Trust and Will, I've listed, this is not sponsored, okay? But I've listed them because I've seen the work that they've done over time to scale. They, interestingly enough, launched something called Easy Probate. They talked about cryptocurrency. It's been a very innovative and intricate platform that I've seen scale. I talk about a lot of platforms actually on my blog about it. Another thing, don't forget to check your term. If you have term insurance, check the terms to see how long it's for, and if it has the means to convert over, if it's to another term or if it's to a whole life, whatever you want to be. Term or life depends on what your financial objectives depend on. Okay. Also, if you have an old life insurance policy, see what your options are with that. If it had any riders, I probably could do a whole video. I have a blog post talking about insurance policies too. But if there have riders within your life insurance policy that will benefit as well, such as cash, death benefit, it's other things too. It depends on the servicer. But see what your options are with your life insurance policies to see what the pivot will be for your family whenever you do transition. So to go back to what I was saying, the reason why I'm so impactful on talking about estate plans, especially during financial planning month, is because I want more Black, brown, and everybody to not only know about estate plans, to grow into building estate plans and to scale them to be wealth plans. So regardless if you are pre-rich, rich, know that there are ways for you to do so. But the key point of it is knowing what you currently have, knowing what your financial objectives are. How can you interchangeably to build the right estate plan for you right now, and that has legs to scale later as your wealth accumulates over time. So don't allow GoFundMe to have you overlook building generational wealth through estate plans and other tactics as well. So I know we like to talk about generational wealth when it comes to, having this and getting the trust fund and getting the will, but having an overall cohesive plan that makes sense and will benefit you and have you sound and also benefit your family too. Because the means to build generational wealth is for you to actually enjoy it, but also for you to know what tools and products and placement and positioning that you have to have now to see how you can build later. So if you have any questions, let me know. Check out my blog post, like I stated. This will be ongoing conversation whenever it's not a designated holiday or observance within the finance world. But that's it.